Hello and welcome to another Too Many Projects, and today Clara has a new motorbike.
Honda!
It's a CB250.
It's a Nighthawk.
It's a Nighthawk, and it was very reasonably priced, and it was running, and we've been for a ride on it, and it's okay. It's not running great. It has some maintenance to be done, and so in this video we're going to be having a look at the fueling, because we've been for a ride. It was nice, wasn't it? It was good, just before the winter, but over the winter it's got a few little bits that need attention, and we're going to have the carburettor off in this video and see if there's anything that can be serviced and sorted out in there. The more observant of you might notice that there is no carburettor, and that my hair's quite short. You'll notice that in a minute, and that's because we actually started this video a few days ago and it was a bit dark, so apologies for that. But here's what happened a few days ago. Okay, first thing, get the seat off, because it was all broken. So there's a little tab to pull.
Wait, I'm out here.
That's somewhere safe. So there's this fuel filter on the bike, which is not factory, so I'm going to get rid of that. But I'm a bit worried about why it might be there. Like, someone might have had some problems before. So the first thing we're going to do is drain the fuel out the tank and inspect it inside, just to make sure there's no rust. Then we're going to, once we've got the tank off, we'll undo that tap and have a look at the filter inside it to see if that's broken or anything, and they've put this on as a quick fix. And then there's this switch wiring arrangement down here that seems to go to the carburettor heater. So that's an interesting thing that I'll probably just cut to begin with. Right, let me get
What could go wrong?
the fuel tank down. Okay, so if I've got the fuel tap off, so if I just put that in there and turn the fuel tap on
Which is right in front
to
of you.
reserve, there is the fuel draining out. That's going to take a minute or so. What's the list of things we've done? First of all, we have done the spark plugs, the spark plug caps, the air filter. It's got an intermittent starter button problem, which I think might be to do with the starter solenoid, because the contacts look dirty, but we'll have to go through the whole ignition system to find that problem.
What fun!
We've got a little hole in one of the exhausts that we might patch up temporarily to see if we can get it through the ULEZ first. A bit of rust on the inside of the swing arm there that is not serious, but does need treating quite quickly. The handlebars are a bit bent because someone dropped it, and the left hand weight undoes itself, which might be fixed with Loctite. When we went to go and get it, this is a good time to tell a story. When we went to go and get the bike, there was a really nice man who hadn't ridden it for a long time, and Clara was in the car and I was driving the motorbike back because she wasn't sure about getting on the big fast roads initially. And I don't think I've ridden anything less than my motorcycle in power for a while, so it seemed quite slow, but I was okay with that. It got it going. It didn't like to idle, which I figured was because it was cold and needed a bit of a tune-up because it had been a while since it was well looked after. And then we got on the motorway and I was struggling to keep up with you. I think it was the A2.
That's what I'm saying. It's an A road, but it was a bit busy A road.
I think I was stuck about 45, and I was really, with the wind behind me, I could get up to 50 with the throttle full open in some of the gears. And I was a bit worried about how weedy it was. It felt a bit like a old 125 that was a bit crap. And then suddenly, second cylinder kicked in, and after that moment, I shot ahead. You were now I'd been dropping behind, so you were now doing about 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Waiting for me, and I kept overtaking you to try and tell you that we could go fast now because I was suddenly had all the power back. So that's a bit of a worry, but it's not a massive worry because it seems to be working fine now, and I think it's just probably a bit sticky.
We sorted it right out. No, there's nothing attached.
Okay, great. There we go. And the tank's off.
Hooray! This, what's this?
That's a heat shield. Part of the manual said that it's really important to make sure that's not broken. I think,
Oh my goodness, look at that.
yeah.
Robbie!
Right, so That slightly rusty band at the back there is attaching the carburetor to the airbox, and apparently on this bike, if I loosen this off, it will be able to come backwards and slip beautifully out the right hand side.
Oh, it was the clutch cable we replaced, isn't it? That's why it looks so very, very new.
Oh yeah, did we do that?
Yeah, we did.
I don't have any recollection. Add that to the list earlier. There we go, that's the throttle cable.
What's a carb heater?
Well, I don't really know, but I'm taking an educated guess that it heats the car. Much like a glow plug,
Oh,
I
okay.
guess, in a diesel. So, here on the left, that is the breather hose I've just pulled off next to the choke. What I'm going to call a choke, but I think the manual called it something much more complicated. But that just unscrews, like so. And then these are the nuts that hold the front on, and while I've got the camera on this side, I've just started taking those off as well. The one at the top's quite tricky to get to because of the bracket that holds the throttle. And pull harder.
Okay. Oh.
So, we are doing it right. We checked the manual. It's just, I think the rubber on the airbox is not what it maybe once was. Power. Bloody boat! Okay, it's out. It's not, it's really stuck. There we go.
Really
Okay.
stuck. There you go.
There it is. So we'll take it inside and take it apart. It is a real clean. So there's our carburettor covered in oil and grease. To begin with, I've got a big bucket of degreaser here, and I think a nice long soak might help it clean up a little bit better later. So, before we rebuild the bike, let's have a look at the fuel tap. But first of all, I took a glance into this fuel tank at night and it looked really good. Now it's daytime, I'm just going to have a look inside. Because I don't understand why there was a fuel filter put on this. Okay, that's all looking fine in there. I can't see any debris. Nice clean fuel tank. Let's have a look at the fuel tap. Just throw all my rags away last night because the foxes had weed on them. Alright, so there's a strainer on this tap, which is my main worry. I want to make sure that that fuel filter wasn't there because perhaps the strainer inside was damaged. Strainer's good, there's nothing blocking it up. It doesn't look like it's been leaking on the outside, and it's clean. So, quick new O-ring, and we'll pop that back in. Right, let's get it out. It does, this degrease is not very nice, I'm not going to get this again. The cheap Screwfix stuff is the best one.
Top tip.
2 glasses of wine, 1 carburettor. We should move the wine. Let's move the wine.
I was replacing this one with that one.
Oh no, use that one, that one's much better for the initial clean. Phillips. Yes. Right, could you try and loose up some of that grease with the toothbrush? I'm just going to go and get the carburettor cleaner from downstairs.
Quelle surprise, the cleaning job comes down to me.
Look,
Pay no attention to
brutal,
me.
don't breathe it in. Oh, look. A nice Cayenne logo coming out.
Why are we cleaning this?
Because I don't want any of this to get in there either. And we're going to open up, the main thing is to open up the bottom and see how much
What's that?
nasty petrol's in there. That's a Venturi or pipe of some kind, I don't know. I think that's usually that would allow air and fuel to bypass the throttle. I don't understand anything that's going on at this stage.
A vacuum thingy?
Yeah, it's got a little vacuum thing. This is a little vacuum thingy and it pulls a little thingy. Anyway, it's modern and clever.
Oh, and that's a butterfly valve.
Yeah.
Ah, can't believe my knowledge.
Um,
It's time for Name That Part.
so this madness is a carb heater, allegedly.
You're a carb heater, allegedly.
Right, enough of that. So I think this bit, because we're taking this bowl off the bottom, I would like to just maybe remove all of this so we can clean it properly.
Well.
Oh yeah, carburetor cleaner for the win. It's got to be bad for the environment.
It's bad for my lungs, I can tell you that.
Don't breathe it. That's important. Put them back where I found them before I break something. Right, let's
But
get
you
the
don't
bowl
know where
off.
that
That's
other
the-
washer came from?
No. Yeah, perfect. Look at that. The bowl will come away. Out the way bowl. That is a bit of dirt. That needs cleaning, but it's not the end of the world at all. Looks okay. It all looks like we got here at the right time. There's nothing really that wrong with it. Two carb cleaner, never goes amiss. I've dropped the jet, Claire, and I can't find it.
No. Where have you dropped it?
I don't know, I was just here.
Was it indeed? Was that the one you just had in your mouth?
Some carb cleaner down all the passages. So let's pop it back together. Here's the carburetor.
Ooh.
Ooh.
It's so clean.
Well, it's not that clean actually. I've just noticed. It's supposed to be clean, ready to rebuild for this episode, but look in the bottom. So there's our carburetor, and here's a bunch of bits for it that are in varying states of repair, and we've got to rebuild it with one carb rebuild kit which has a number of different seals and bits of brass to put in there, and some of these nuts and bolts are broken, so I've got a bunch of stainless steel ones. Stainless steel is the perfect thing to do it back up with, but if we do it up too tight it will strip the threads, because the carb's made of aluminium and some of the parts in the carb are made of brass, so everything's really soft, so we just have to do them up just tight.
That's your job then.
Yes, and the other thing is this is a carb heater that I haven't fully understood yet, because it looks like the American models didn't have them, and all the circuit diagrams I can find for this thing are off the American models. However, I did buy, perhaps ill-advisedly off the internet, this genuine Honda carb heater from a more modern quad bike thing, four-wheeler as they call it, which looks to me to be exactly the same part, and the carburetor on the more modern vehicle looks the same body as this carb, and I just have a feeling this is going to be fine. I'm doing a little bit more research, but we're going to shove that one in for today. We can always try and fix this one later. I tested the resistance between the two connections on both of them, and the old one does have a bit more resistance, but it's really very marginal. So I think the old one might be working fine. It's just that someone's messed with it.
What's the worst that could happen if it's not the right thing?
It won't run very well, which is exactly why we're doing this whole job. That's the problem.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be
Because
fine.
apparently in the UK, it's to do with that man. I'm going to link to that video where that man. There's a very clever man in this video. You should watch it. I'll link it somewhere in the thing. He explains why you need a carb heat, and he swears constantly throughout it, and it's a great.
Oh yeah, the
amusement.
Northern Man.
You can call him Northern Man if you want. I'm calling him Sweary Man. He's very sweary. He's very clever though. Right, so let's empty this out here. We'll do the brass bits on the jets first. So the jets look okay. We looked through them. They look fine, but they have to be microscopically correct in order to fuel the bike perfectly. So we should replace them with these replacements that we own, since we own them. Look, let's do a review of how the carburetor works now that we know.
Sure.
As you so helpfully pointed out, I actually had no idea how it worked with the last one, but now I do. So, it's a CV carburetor, constant something, velocity maybe, who knows. But in the top is a diaphragm, and we have a throttle on this side, which you can see actuating. It's a butterfly valve. Go faster, go less fast. There is a slide,
Whee!
very similar to that you would see in...
Not that sort of slide.
as the throttle in some carburetors. And that, at the moment, is quite closed because there's not a large amount of air moving through the carburetor. As the engine RPM rises, there will be a lot of air and fuel moving through the carburetor. That will create a pressure differential between this part and the top part, and the diaphragm will cause the slide to move up. So when you're at open throttle, when the engine RPMs are going very fast, that burst throttle will be full open, but when the engine RPMs are quite slow, it will have a sort of maximum flow rate through the carburetor. And this is not a choke because it's a fuel enrichment valve. It does exactly the same thing, except instead of choking the air, it enriches the mix with more fuel. So now we know how everything works, except this bit that we don't understand at all. And I'm happy with that.
It's probably best not to overthink it.
Yes. Right, so main jet. There's some numbers written on the end. Can you read them?
Yes, 105.
Yes, I can see the numbers. 105. So well done, NRP Carbs. Nailed it with just a very basic description of what this carburetor actually even was. Highly recommend you go there for your carburetor parts. He seems like a very nice man. We once nearly had an argument about the role of camera in craft beer, but it was a real testament to how nice a man he was, because it didn't end up as an argument. Alright, so that's a fresh main jet. What else have we got? We've got the that looks like an idle jet to me. Can you see if there's any numbers written on that idle jet?
40.
I've also got 40.
Hooray!
So let's put a new one in. The mixture screw, we've looked at that, it's fine, let's replace it anyway, because we've got one. So what I read was that there's such tight tolerances on these that tiniest bit of wear does affect the amount of fuel and air. And then very carefully pull the old black O-ring and the old black washer out.
I'm saying it's the same.
Are they the same length?
Yeah.
Right, we'll be fine then. The last thing that goes onto the mixer screw and the first thing that goes onto the hole is this metal washer. And I know that that goes on first because I just took the old one off and I watched myself do it. And that's the wrong order. So off they come again because the spring goes on first. So spring, and then it left behind in the hole, first of all, this black rubber O-ring. No, that can't be the right way. I'm not having that being the right way around. It's got to be metal washer on top of the spring, O-ring into the thingy. There.
There.
1 O-ring, 2 washer, 3 spring. I got it right.
Well done.
It may have been in wrong before, or I might have been mistaken.
Nighthawk.
Main jet adjustment screw, 2.5 turns. So I'm going to take that mixer screw, put it down snug, and then turn it back out. Half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. Perfect. So that's 2.5 screws out. Our main jet and idle jet are new. So I'm going to be pulling out the slide from the middle after removing the lid here. Springy thingy.
Springy
Let's take the whole slide out.
But is it this guy? Use a Phillips screwdriver to turn the jet needle or retainer 90 degrees counterclockwise. Then remove the retainer, spring and jet needle arrow from the carburetor.
There we go. New one dropped in. It's got 3 little ears. Yes. Yes. And there, I think, and then just
90 degrees.
90 degrees it in. Make sure it's snug. I developed a system for doing this. So the problem you've got here is when you push the slide all the way down, the diaphragm kind of deforms and it pops out of the bit it sits in, this channel. And that's annoying because when you put the lid on, it's definitely going to deform and get out of its channel, and we don't want to clamp this down with that not in the channel. And so I developed a system.
Kel, surprise!
And that is to very carefully not damage the pin that's inside and stick a bit of tissue underneath it. And so then I'm going to carefully get it exactly where it needs to go. And Clara, I need you now.
Oh, going.
So we're going to replace these screws on top because they're already getting a bit damaged with some stainless Allen alternatives. And controversially, could you put the tiniest bit of copperies on these and then slip them in for me when I get this down?
Sexy.
So this lid has one specific way it goes. You've got to seat the spring onto the little spring seat that's in the top of it, and you've got to remember to put the spring in, which is something I haven't always done.
Allen key. Allen!
Copperies in carburetor bolts. Controversial. Who's got an opinion? I think copperies is not a disease, and therefore one should use it more often. That's not the saying, is it?
No.
It's not a disease, it's copperies. Somebody else has that copyrighted and it's not Matt's Off-Road Recovery. The other controversial thing is steel screws and an aluminium chassis.
I've barely done them up.
I know, that's why I'm doing them up a bit more. But the risk is stripping it. And I did read that a lot of people put a spring washer when they do it.
Right.
When I say a lot of people, I read 3 people on one thread on one forum, and it seemed to be a consensus. So now the floats, we haven't got replacement floats, so the floats are going to go back in there, and we need to get the tiny pin.
This one?
No, one of them.
What's that?
Well, that's when the floats rise, because the bottom's full of petrol, this just plugs the hole that lets the petrol in.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought it looks
the new one
fine,
is.
but actually they say that again this has got very, very tight tolerances, and can you look at it closely? Can you see how the old one is sharp?
Yeah.
And that's because it's worn. The tiniest bit. So this slots in here, and we just pop the floats back in the top, making sure the pin drops into its little hole, and we slide across the pivot pin. Look at that. So we need to grab this seal out the float bowl. I want to get it out because I was looking at the video yesterday when we were taking it off. I noticed that there was yellow staining down one side of the carburetor, and I think this seal might be leaking. Picking this out in pieces. It's coming out in pieces. Alright, and we've got this thingy that we don't know what it does, that does something about fuel and pumping it somewhere at some point. And it's got a little rubber boot thing. And I've got a new one, so we'll put one on. Why not? It's got a little lip at the bottom. Seems very straightforward. And the rubber seal. Also, I need opinions, please, YouTube. Do we ever need to put anything on a rubber seal on a carburetor bowl? I don't think you do. I think rubber seals should go onto nice clean surfaces and nothing else should happen.
I'm in agreement.
Well, I think this is ready to go back on. And once again, we've got some replacement Allen versions of the bolts for this. It's not a disease, it's coppery.
I'll be quiet now.
Lovely. The next person to take this apart.
Oh, they're going to be so pleased.
If they've remembered their Alekines, they'll be really pleased. If they haven't got any Alekines, they'll be really grumpy about it.
It's an accelerator pump.
An accelerator pump, that's what this is. There you go.
Diaphragm, cover screws,
Pumps
arrows.
acceleration. I want to take it apart. I want to see if there's anything damaged in there. I don't want to have an area that can be...
if necessary, remove the cotter pin arrow. It's in a magic different
That is quite a powerful spring.
There you go.
Oh, it really needs a clean. Look, it's dirty. That's another diaphragm. And it was sticky dirty, that, so I'm quite glad we took it apart. Right, and then we'll put the lid back on.
With the spring?
With the spring. It's really important not to forget the springs. Right, there we go. So, let's get this back together. Oh, look, so when you accelerate, does it sort of open a little extra pump of fuel into somewhere. I don't know. That's very clever though, isn't it? Right, what's
Really
the
clever.
order?
So bolt, nylon washer,
Nylon washer, like that, yeah.
nylon bushing,
What is that? Oh, that's, yeah.
metal washer,
That'll be this one.
And
On the
then-
other side. Yeah, makes sense.
and then lock washer.
And then lock washer. Right, got it. That's where the washer came from. Can you pop some copperies on that, please?
Throttle up. Bam.
Hopefully, I mean, the idea is once we do this, we should be able to just open the throttle when your motorbike's warmed up and it should just go rather than go
Is that what it was doing?
sort of. So we just need to reattach this. And I've got some nice new Allen bolts under that book for you. So there we go. It's looking much nicer, isn't it?
Lovely.
And we know it's working now. It's got a new pin in the centre of there. New bells, and you can read the Kaihin logo. Again. Right, and then the carb heat.
Hang on. Didn't it have that on
It
it?
did. That's really important. But the last thing to do. Where's this guy? There we go. So I've got some new high quality fuel hose to replace this fuel delivery bit. Also, I'm hoping it's going to work for the breather as well, and some nice clamps. So that, as far as I'm concerned, is ready to go back on,
Super.
and we should have a perfect running motorbike.
Woohoo!
And we're going to leave that episode there. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and tune in next time. See if it all works properly.
Fingers crossed.
See you on the next one.
Bye.